Om Vasudevasutam Devam Kansachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Om. Adorations to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe, destroyer of the forces of darkness, and bestower of immortality. Srimad Bhagavad Gita in chapter 8, entitled Akshara Brahma Yoga, the yoga of imperishable Brahman. And we are coming to a conclusion of this chapter. The highlight of the chapter was pointing to two paths, Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. And these two paths sum up all religions, all spiritual teachings. This because they give you all the highlighted points from beginning to end in the process of yogic attainment. And just to give you a summary of that, Uttarayana Agnir Jyoti Aha Shukla Shanmasa Uttarayanam. Agni, fire. Fire is Vairagya. Jyoti is Vivek. Jyoti is light. I'm just thinking of some humor about it. It's just like two terms you are using these days. Self-isolation, social distancing. Self-isolation is Agni. World is around full of fire. Get away from it. Isolate yourself. And that's called Vairagya. Develop an internal sense of detachment and go on detaching. It will leave you to your own self. That's Agni, fire. Jyoti, light. The light allows you to move with society in a proper way. Otherwise, tumble against everybody. Catch hold of viruses. I'm joking, but let's not joke too much. Light is Viveka, a deep understanding that must go on developing. That you are not the body, you are the divine self, and the world around you is not the reality. What is real? What is unreal? What is truth? What is falsehood? What is snake? What is rope? So that's called Vivek movement. Aha! When these two movements have started within, now you are living your life with purpose. Purpose, you have fourfold purpose. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Ethical value, vital value, human value, and ultimately spiritual value, the infinite value of life. All that is worked out through karma yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga. In brief, if you are practicing integral yoga in life, and it is becoming more and more aligned to this integral yoga, more and more delighted in doing integral yoga. Your life will be joyous, delightful. You will not feel the pressure of time. No longer how long it takes. You are living with purpose. This we have described before, how one of the devotees, Narada, brings the news that you will not have God's darshan until all those leaves fall down from the tree. But you will have. Only until those leaves are there. You will not have it. But the devotee starts dancing. Coming back to in a very simple way, if you become deeply interested in practicing yoga, and yoga becomes your central source of delight, how you have lived your life, not how much you have earned, how much you have contacted other people, but how much you are harmonizing day by day. That which gives you an inner delight. Now therefore, it's called aha. Aha, aha, aha. You move on. The other movement called ah, ah. Every step is a step of frustration. And then after these three, Shukla, your heart now opens up. How beautifully, just like the moon begins to wax in the blue, vast blue, clear blue sky. That type of experience awaits everyone, because that's your real spiritual health. Sanamasha Uttarayanam. Now, all your life is constant expansion. You are getting dimension, no more dementia. Dimension that you could not imagine. The narrow, limited mind doesn't have that dimension. Now the dimension is Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. All this is Brahman. But the movement towards that has steps. So it describes Sanamasha. Just like every day in the northern course, the daytime goes on increasing. Just allegorical. And finally, you become merged with the sun. Because the entire Uttarayana is based on the sun. Brahman presented as the sun, light of lights. So that's Uttarayana path. Dakshinayana, the path that leads you to the moon. But this moon context here is different. In Shukla Paksha, the moon waxes. That moon is pure joy. Dakshinayana, you end up with the moon, implying instead of sun has its own light, moon has borrowed light. In other words, now Dakshinayana, Dhumo Ratri, you are encountering dhoom, mist. You don't have clarity. What really do you want? You are led by distracted mind. And so you are going through smoke. Instead of developing vivek and an understanding that clears the view of things, you are developing as if you are facing increasing darkness. Ratri. Night is becoming qualified by dense darkness. And instead of now you are facing complete darkness around you. Sadamasha Dakshinayanam. Whatever extension, possibility of extension you had, possibility of dimension. I'm using words in an allegorical way. What I'm implying, your consciousness becomes so cramped that all that you think is in the terms of what your ego guides you. Certain things you remember from the past, certain things are worrying you in the present, some certain things you are expecting to happen in future. And then while you have all this, the news dumps you something else. Hurricane is coming. So, that's called Dakshinayana. Now, increasing lack of dimension until you become completely demented. However, this state is a state for one who is in this state, he is like a drunk. He enjoys fruit of good karmas, what called bhoga. And the bhoga in his mind is eat, drink, be merry, and just go on expecting better and better. One day, jalebis, rasgullas. Another day, waffles. I'm joking. But it is not so simple. While expecting all things that your heart will delight, the result of your indulgence in pleasure will bring you a lot of pain as well. Pain outweighs your pleasure. So you are working on how to gain pleasure and how to stop pain. But there is a state after death, until you are reborn, because in order to experience pain and pleasure in normal way, you have to have a body system, nervous system. If you don't have nerves, your experience is so intense, and yet you do not have a definition of what you are experiencing. And that can be both ways. When it is a lot of joy, it's called Swarga. Lot of pain, it's Narak. Yatana Marg. Gita doesn't mention even Yatana Marg, it left it. Two paths are open for cultured society, people who are not completely in a tamasic level. All are interested in being good, gaining popularity on the basis of goodness. So in that movement, when virtuous karmas increase, your choice develops. How to choose between Preya and Shreya. Preya is only that which is apparently pleasant. Shreya is your actual divine attainment goal. So therefore, when you are in that state, you have two paths open for you. If you have not attained proper qualification, then you are going to Chandraloka, Swarga, Bhoga. Having exhausted Bhoga, you are born again. And that has gone on happening again and again. Swarga, therefore, is not the answer to your problem. Moksha is the goal. That moksha is already described to you in the form of Uttarayana, the path of light. Uttarayana is also known as path of light. Shukla Krishne gati hyete jagatah shashvate mate ekaya yatyana vrittim anyaya vartate punaha. These two paths, path of light and path of smoke, they are viewed beginningless. Following the path of light, one does not return, while following the path of smoke, one does return. The point I have explained. By return, you are coming back into the cycle of birth and death, Bhava Chakra, doing virtuous karmas, mixed with negative karmas, sinful karmas, opening the experiences for heaven and hell. When heaven experience becomes more in quantity, if heaven experience is 80%, then it is described you go to Swarga. And if hellish experience becomes 80%, then it is said you are gone to Narak. Both experiences in scriptures are after your death. Between the death, after death you are coming back to incarnation until you get back to embodiment. Your experience is intense, either of great pleasure or of intense pain. But you do not have to exercise your mind what will happen after death. Even in your daily life, you are experiencing a little touch of Swarga, a little touch of Naraka. Naraka knows better to touch. Pleasure and pain continue in daily life. Light, path of light and path of smoke. Path of light, you will not return to the world process. Path of smoke, you will have got a lot of enjoyment, but your enjoyable trip will end. I will not go into too much detail. That's a very important point to understand. How to live your life and end up your life with a mind that is well embellished by Uttarayana movement. If it is completely embellished, the question of what will happen after death doesn't arise. It already happened while you are living. You died. What you think of yourself As personality, that doesn't exist. That you have handled it even while alive. So the question of what will happen after death doesn't arise. But you don't have that absolute maturity, you have not attained Jivan Mukti. Now, therefore, opens up the door to next embodiment. But if your preparation, qualification is very advanced, you don't have to be born. At the time of death, your whole mental set will be totally different from the other people. Try to understand. You don't even have to think of the highest goal. People who have lived a life very uncultured, lot of jealousy, lot of hate, lot of cheating, lot of vulturous works. At the time of death, the whole mental set is so dark and confused. But if you have been doing virtuous deeds, you find mental set at the time of death. Mental set, you don't have to wait for the time of death. It's already, mind is always, puts everything in order. But order again is under demoniac, under the power of overpowering aspect of lower self. The lower self puts the ducks together in a different way. Higher self puts the order in a different way. The order and disorder goes on occurring in your mind, led by higher self, lower self. So what I am leading you to understand that your mental set begins to change. You don't have to wait until death. But then, that's life. Death has to come led by karma. Every body lives on the basis of karma. Karma ends, your body has to terminate. But no matter how accidentally or quickly or slowly your body decays, the mind will not go on holding to negative things. Mind will go on holding to something positive. That's why you see in the bhajans of Kabira, etc., he describes death like a bride going to meet a bridegroom. Ghungat ke pat. Give up confinement of the body. You are being led to be free to meet the beloved. So that type of mindset is promoted when you are living a very ideal life. So, in other words, no matter whenever death comes, that's what happens to your inner personality. Inner soul is no longer looking for fruit of karma. Your soul is moving towards discovering I am that. Aham Brahma. These Sanskrit two words are also important to understand. One is called avritti. If you are following the path of smoke, avritti means turning back again and again. If you are following the path of light, path of fire, light, Uttarayana, then there is no more avritti, no more coming back. Naite sriti parth janan yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. A yogi who knows these two paths, he is never deluded. The yogi who knows these two paths are never deluded. O Partha, Therefore, O Arjuna, become firmly established in yoga at all times. This is the message that rings again and again in the teachings. Be established in yoga. But yoga here doesn't mean one aspected yoga, only karma yoga or bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga. But a life of integral yoga. That's the subtlest key to success in the practice of essence of all religions. Your personality has always 4 aspects. Action, you can't live without doing something. And you have to keep all instruments of action active. You don't use your hand for 2 or 3 days. You don't know how to lift your hand and shake your fingers. If you don't think, your mind will begin to develop a dementia type of aspect. So I will not go into that detail. So action, similarly your emotions, they have to be well exercised. Action has to be exercised, your emotions, how it feels to have tender emotions. Your guru is the lotuses. And how the lotuses and beautiful blossoms, and how they are loved by bees and black bees and butterflies. So that aspect is called bhakti yoga. Dhyana yoga, always there is a need for your willpower. If you don't have a steadiness in your mind, you will live constantly with a sense of a doubting state, shaking state. At every state we say, am I doing wrong? Am I doing right? Who cares? But you do care. Internally you are interpreting it, it's negative. It's not satisfying. So that is corrected by practice of dhyana. So that your sankalpa, you are able to, there is some sound goes on and suddenly jump to a conclusion. Instead, you open your eyes and see what it really means. What do you have to do? I'm giving you a very simple way to understand the role of willpower. If you don't have the will, you simply jump up. You bring avesh in your personality, agitation. When you have will, then you bring intelligence, understanding. Same problem. Face it with avesh, sudden turmoil in your mind, losing all the balance. Or face it with patience. So that type of strength comes by daily practice of japa, prayer, meditation, or many aspects of practices called yoga nidra, whatever you call it. And this is also the purpose behind all the different limbs of yoga. Pranayam, Hatha yoga exercises, Kundalini yoga exercises, all those are meant to bring in your personality will. And again, you begin to discriminate between ego's will and the real will of your soul. Ego's will be encouraged by the demoniac aspect of your personality, the lower self. The higher self will emphasize the need of divine will. And that's illustrated in Mahabharata. Bhishma was Devavrata. Bhishma Sankalpa. His will enabled him, brought him, he can die at his own will. All that very allegorical. I will not go into detail at this stage. But the point is, that type of will begins to develop within you, and it begins to guide your all mental process. The process is progressive. It doesn't happen all at once, but progressively you move towards that will, that you are not going to stay on with relative pleasures of the world or illusory pleasures. You are bound to attain the goal. Aham Brahmasmi, that is your goal and that's your will. Then it is Sat Sankalpa. Your Sankalpa has become, it resonates with truth. And Jnana aspect, ultimately Jnana is the climax. As you begin to practice all the 4 yogas, in the practice of Jnana Yoga, you are exercising your intellect and the role of your intellect. How so many problems are resolved easily when your intellect begins to work properly. But the same intellect that goes on solving very ordinary problems and is not able to solve completely, that means staying in intellectual level. Now, Jnana Yoga promotes that intellect to become intuitional. So, in brief, if you bring all the 4 yogas, you don't have to count them, it's just so many things you do in your life. You eat when you're hungry, sleep, you rest, do your jobs, and you do it day by day. You don't count them, how many. They are all natural. So when you study Karma Yoga, etc., people start developing a mathematical. Oh, I will give 1 hour to Karma Yoga. Another hour I will give to Bhakti Yoga. Another Raj Yoga. Oh, Jnana Yoga. Too much. Central point is, all these 4 has to be exercised day by day. When we begin to exercise them in a right way, under spiritual guidance, then you become the practitioner of all the 4. In one word, you become Sampurna Yogi, integral yoga you are practicing. And the basic word yoga means always integral. 28th verse. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. A yogi, knowing this, goes beyond the fruits of meritorious deeds, such as the verbal study of the Vedas, the performance of sacrifices, and acts of charity. Goes beyond, doesn't mean that all this is not good. They are good, but not with the aim of coming back into the world. Generally, people turn to spirituality and do all these things. You begin to read various stotras, you pray and offer those stotras. and go on and on. That Vedas open the door to a lot of study. And also, you are inspired to do different good karmas, called meritorious deeds, with the expectation that your future will be wonderful. Your dreams for the future will become fulfilled in a divine way. And also you do various deeds of sacrifice and charity. All these what's known as good deeds and religious deeds. Normally, for vast majority people, there is an expectation behind all these deeds, called sakamya. As long as there is expectation, you are following dhumra marga, the path of smoke. And that will keep you bonded with the world. It will come back in the world again and again. But a yogi develops that type of vairagya that his mind is not drawn to this path. He begins his life in this way, virtuous karmas. In the lower stage, he is ready to go to enjoy all heavenly results of his karmas. But if he continues to perform his yoga, if you continue with your integral yoga, automatically your insight moves away from choosing the paths to Swarga and turning to liberation, moksha. Sanskrit way of saying, phala sapeksha sadhana. Sadhana is being done with the expectation of fruit. Phala nirapeksha sadhana. Sadhana is done without expectation of any fruit. All that you want is yourself, that's all. No root, no fruit. Who am I? Discover your identity, nothing else. All else is illusions. Come to realize in your dream, all this is a dream. Then all that you want is to wake up. As long as you want to dream, it is sakamya. You want to wake up, nishkamya. So, the message behind it, that yes, all those karmas you must do. You go beyond doesn't mean that you shouldn't do them at all. No, you go on doing them, then only you will go beyond. If there are 6 steps in rung of the ladder, and you are choosing to go only to 4 steps, the message is, don't stay with those 4 steps. Go beyond. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't even go into the 4 steps. Try to understand. These are simple things, but in general talk given by scholars, the subtlety is not understood. And with this chapter concludes. Om Tatsaditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Jnana Vijnana Yogo Nam Saptamodhyayah, or rather it was Akshar Brahma. Akshar Brahma Yogo Nam Ashtamodhyaya. Thus in the Upanishad of the Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of the Supreme Brahman, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna ends the 8th chapter, entitled Akshar Brahma Yoga, the yoga of imperishable Brahman. And now we are entering into 9th chapter. The 9th chapter is Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga, the yoga of royal knowledge. Royal, because now if this type of knowledge you are pursuing, it will win. It's royal, old style, power of king. You have chosen the royal road. Nobody can stop you if you are allowed to pass through the royal road. And if you follow that road, you will find the royal secret. How can you gain a lot of power and popularity and fulfillment of a desire? By pleasing the king. I'm joking. Be loyal to God and follow the royal path. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tutte guhyatamam pravakshamyanasuyaye vishyuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajñatva mokshase shubhat. I will declare to you who are endowed with the virtue of anasuya. Anasuya means Asuya means finding fault in others. Anasuya, you don't find fault in others. Arjuna's name itself means straightforward. But Krishna is highlighting another qualification of Arjuna, anasuya. Always remember, in the mantras, when your fingers are adjusted and keeping that message, finger pointing is done by this finger, index finger. Now, that finger pointing is controlled. When you start doing mantra, finger pointing, index finger remains relaxed. Other fingers get involved in japa. Why? You are being pointed out. No more finger pointing. That keeps that finger out. That quality is called anasuya. Because you can go on seeing defects of others and your mind can be completely so involved that your finger is not pointing to yourself. So ultimate goal is reached if finger points to yourself. In the beginning you may find things are not so joyous within yourself, but ultimately allow that finger. Cut the nails. Go deeper and deeper. Your finger should not point to anywhere else. But who am I? At this stage, let me also point to whenever any virtue is described or highlighted, many associate virtues are implied. This process is called upalakshana. You are describing only one, but it implies many things. And what are those many things? 8 great virtues are called Atma Guna. It was presented by great sage Gautam Rishi. What are they? Daya sarva bhuteshu. Have compassion for all living beings. That's one. Kshantir, practice of kshama. Literal translation, forbearance. But it is not ordinary kshama. the mind is brought to such purity that the question of forgiving does not arise in the mind. When you see something negative and hold on to your mind that this person is wicked, so much wickedness he has practiced. What can I do? Chava. That's not Shanti. But look at it a different way. Oh, this person has such potentiality. There's so much energy, so much. He should be guided. Oh God, send a motherly heart to help this person. Or you allow yourself to be involved in helping the person. But you don't have to hold on to any of whatever negative things people do towards you or towards others. Cure is needed, not highlighting the disease. Because anyone who does negative things is a patient. You have to think of the cure. So that type of development called Shanti. Next one is Anasuya. That point I have already pointed out. Means no more looking into the defects of others. Very curious always to find defects. Many good things are there, but we don't see them. But where is dal kala? Whole dish is filled with wonderful dal. But look at one thing is black. Is it jeera? Or is it a worm? Next point called Shaucham, purity. Manasa, vacha, karmana, be free of kama, krodha, lobha, all these perverted desires, anger, hate, etc., all that. The more you keep purified, that's called Shaucham, which has two aspects, physical and mental. Next quality called anayaso. Literal meaning of anayaso is spontaneous. In other words, be saral, simple, not complex, holding on one thing in one hand and thing in another. So if you do that, you are under stress. How to hide the other one hand and open the other one. I'm joking, to make it simple to understand. So when you are not doing things in a open-hearted, in a nice, in a straightforward manner, then you are constantly putting yourself under stress. Being straightforward is spontaneous. You don't have to figure out how can I smile and how can it's spontaneous. Next one, Mangalam. The term is auspicious. Be always present your influence on others as well as on your own self as a indication for something good is coming. Something positive is simple way of saying positive-minded. And that Mangal term is auspiciousness. Things are going to be more and more auspicious. And that's the type of vision you have for others when you bless them. And of course it is directly for your own self. No matter how you are, what's awaiting you is a spiritual progress. Mangalam. Akarpanyam. No more miserliness. Holding on to things to such an extent that what you hold on, you don't even use them. And lastly, aspriha, absence of greed. These virtues, 8 virtues I have counted. If you are practicing, it's called asht. Sanskrit word is asht. If you practice them, you are shisht. You are a gracious personality, shishtachar. If you don't practice them, oppose them, you are dusht. Wicked. So these words, dusht and shisht, you should understand what it really means. And with this I'm going to conclude now. Om Shri Krishnaya Namah. Om Shri Krishnaya Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om. And prayer for shower of Karunamaya Ras of divine grace over all of you, and for kindling the aspiration for attaining Shakti, Bhakti and Mukti, spiritual strength, devotion to God, and becoming liberated. Revelation, I am that. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukma Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Nidamaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat.